going? So, I know I'm supposed to get on this question and answer thing. I've actually been thinking about a lot of the answers I want to do, and I'm working on that video actually right now. But I came across a couple of questions that really got me thinking, way back on like to the origins of JWF, my stop motion wrestling. A lot of people don't realize that it didn't start off as stop motion. It's just the name carried over from what I used to use. JWF at the time was a picture federation, which I'll get into all that right now. So this video basically is going to be about the history of JWF and where it came from, why I did it at the time, why I went back to it, and why I used it name for like animating and that kind of thing. So if you're into a history lesson, sit down, grab a snack, grab a drink, whatever, just chill. If not, come back next time. There'll be something maybe a little better. And I guess let's get right on into it.
So that was me, about 18 years old, stuffing food in my mouth. JWF was about a year old at that point. It wasn't animated at the time, it was a picture federation, which basically meant you had to read text and look at the pictures as you went along. It was kind of like told in a sequential order, which meant by the time you got to the bottom of the page, you just read a match or the pay-per-view or whatever the case was. This is before YouTube, so there was really no way to like put anything on a video, unless you had a flash program, but I definitely didn't. There were a couple of bigger federations that did, but JWF was always kind of small compared to some of the bigger, more elaborate-looking ones. See, it started on a website called WrestlingGuide.com, which was basically a rival of Wrestling Figs, and then eventually it ended up over at Wrestling Figs when Wrestling Guide got shut down or stopped or whatever. Well, anyway, eventually started winning a lot of awards. People liked JWF, and they kept on watching every time I put up a show, so hey, who was I to complain? Now, one thing about me is I never want to keep doing the same thing over and over again. I like to challenge myself. So I started trying to do new, more creative things with JWF, which at the time just meant improving my poses or making longer pay-per-views or more elaborate matches, just whatever the case was. One of the things I actually did was make a Fans' Choice pay-per-view, where I basically just let the fans decide what matches they wanted me to make, and I went through and I made them. That was a lot of fun. It had nothing to do with any of the JWF storylines I had going on at the time. It was just my way of like shouting out to the fans that have supported me. Then, to bring it to the next level, I started animating. Now, obviously, it was crude. It wasn't anything like too streamlined. I was just doing it to, get story progression. But it was fun. I mean, I always knew I liked animating, so being able to include it in my shows was just something pretty cool. Anyway, towards the end of JWF's career, I did a hybrid show with FCW, which was like the biggest pig fed at the time. They were known for their big production and their huge sets and everything. And my last show was called Cross Purposes. That was the last one I made, a big pay-per-view before I went off to college, and JWF kind of stopped. By then, I kind of had to straighten out my priorities a little, so sadly, JWF had to call it quits.
You can actually still go back and watch some of those pick-fed shows on my website, which I guess is still up, but a lot of the shows have been taken down because the bandwidth ran out. I mean, this is like a 10-year-old website, so whatever. But this is how it was, You'd read your text up here, you'd look at the picture that corresponded with it, and you'd just go down. By the time you got to the bottom, you had just read the whole match, or, hey, animation, how about that? This is Cross Purposes, by the way, that pay-per-view I was talking about. So one of the things I always knew I liked about JWF was the fact that it was mine, I had the name, and so it made sense that when I got into animating the wrestling stuff, the past couple of years or whatever, when I finally started rejoining that group and contributing to something like that, it was a chance for me to resurrect JWF. I mean, it was not the same federation, it was just the name, But I already had the name, so I might as well try and see if I can make a name for JWF again, doing something totally different. And I think I did.
So when I first started doing the animating, I decided how great of an idea it would be if I put Bret Hart and Kurt Angle against each other. That's something that I'd never seen done before, and I always kind of wondered who would win between the two of them in their prime. So I put together a promo, made it seem like they were going to square off, they hated each other, this and that. And I think it came out pretty well. And I shared it with a bunch of people, and the response was overwhelmingly positive. But the thing is, everybody was kind of like, oh, this is a great match. I can't wait to see it. And I didn't really have the heart to tell them that I had no intention of actually making a full match. I just wanted to make a promo because, I'd never really seen anything done quite like that before. But then the time came for me to put my money where my mouth was. And the truth is, I really didn't have much better to do anyway, so why not? Let's make a whole match. It was plagued with difficulty because I had a hard drive crash. I lost half of it, but eventually I finally got it done. And you know what? It's still one of my favorite things that I've ever done as far as stop motion goes. The idea that I actually came up with a whole storyline behind why these guys didn't like each other, I think it came together pretty well. I did the same kind of thing with The Rock and Shawn Michaels. Just put them together and decided, you know, this is a fantasy match that nobody's ever seen, so I'm going to try my hand at it.
So that's always kind of been the motivation behind why I do the wrestling animations the way I do, like the fantasy matches kind of. Because I think there's a lot of genuine curiosity when there's two people that are reasonably similar in time frame that have never actually competed against each other before. I think there's something kind of cool to see that and to merge the styles or, you know, what have you. I think it's a lot more interesting than if I were to just stick two guys that you could watch any week on Raw and like just have them, because you already kind of know what to expect between a match with, like, you know, people that you've seen wrestle each other before. But that's kind of the biggest reason why I do JWF the way I do. It's not something that I do as actively as I used to because I just get burned out on wrestling if I spend too much time with it. It's just not something that's my favorite thing in the world anymore. I mean, I still like it, obviously, or else I wouldn't put any kind of hours into animating it. But right now, I'm just taking a break from it. I'm doing some other stuff that I want to do, and I'm sure eventually down the line I'll probably come back to JWF at some point. Everything I do is kind of like in phases. I mean, like I said, I took a couple of year break in between, you know, the Pick Federation version and the stop motion version. So who's to say that, you know, I won't get tired of doing the stop motion that I'm doing now and go back to JWF. But basically, all in all, I'm saying JWF's not going anywhere. It just might be a while before you see it again. But thank you for watching. Hopefully that anybody that ever wondered where JWF came from, I can't talk right now for some reason, anyone that ever, you know, was kind of curious about that, or maybe some of you guys even probably remember the Picture Federation. So thank you for your support over the years. Thank you for watching my videos now, and thank you for keeping an open mind and just letting me do the things I do and giving me the feedback and everything. It's really cool to know that people enjoy what I'm doing besides just me. So thank you. If you want to join us up on Facebook, I'll put a link right here. You can just keep up with the animations and stuff that I'm doing now. I like to just BS and chat about stop motion in there. So come on in, join us. It's fun. And stay tuned, because eventually I want to have that question and answer video done pretty soon. All right.